Welcome along to the Panto podcast. This week my guest is Russ Brown. He tells me in this episode how he likes to bring magic into pantomime, how he wrote to Paul Daniels telling him how to perform a trick when he was little, and how his first panto experience was playing a dame. So sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast.
My guest for today's Panto podcast is Russ Brown. Hello, Russ.
Hello.
How you doing? So we're here in the Blackpool Magicians Club.
We are, yes. We're about the first guests in here, really. You're the first guest in here since the last lecture that we had in here, which was John Archer, back in 2019. Oh no, 2020. Middle of 2020.
I feel privileged.
You should do.
I didn't bring my uke, though, like John used.
No, John didn't bring his uke to the virtual. Me and Russ just realised that last week.
So, is there any magic in your family?
No, nothing. I was given a magic book when I was 5 by my cousin. That was it. I was hooked. That's all I wanted to do.
What was the magic book?
It was called, I think it was just called Magic Tricks by Will Dexter. In fact, I've still got it, and the inside of it, rather than it printed, it feels like it was hand drawn and then like Rolodexed, literally. But yeah, and that was it. After I got the magic book, I was just hooked. That's all I wanted to do. 5 years old, I used to pull down my mum's curtains, seriously, because in that book I read a trick with a piece of rope, and I noticed that at the top of my mum's piece of curtains was a piece of rope. So that's what I did. I pulled down the curtains to get that piece of rope so I could do a trick.
What was the trick?
It was, as far as I remember, and I can't remember what it's called, it's the one where you sort of uncoil the rope, twizzle it, and then it looks like 2 pieces of rope. Do you know which one I mean? And then you put them in your hand and pull them tight and it goes back to 1. It's a good trick. Still a good trick, that.
So, did you start performing at school or in the garden?
I
for friends?
did a few bits at school. I originally lived in Bradford. So I did a few bits at school in Bradford. I can remember doing a thing that the teacher had made me, and it was like a washing machine thing with like a box, like a ghost tube in it, that he'd made himself. I did a few bits at school. I wrote to Paul Daniels when I was 7 before I moved to Blackpool, because my favourite trick was haunted pencil. That was my favourite trick. I'd watched Paul Daniels every Saturday night for 2 years, and at 7 years old I wrote to him and said, I've never seen you do this trick on your TV show, so you probably don't know it. So I wrote him a full letter explaining how to do the haunted pencil. And at 7 years old, he wrote back to me with the history of the haunted pencil and told me, yes, he did know it, but it's a brilliant trick and keep practicing and good luck with your magic. And do you know what? At 7, God, that's like getting a letter from Copperfield now. It really is. It was that level, wasn't he?
Well, he was huge.
Yeah, massive.
Like virtually every magician I know, and I do perform a little bit, has normally ended up either being influenced by Paul or having magic tricks. And
yeah, I can remember when I did tricks in the sticks. I did tricks in the sticks doing the lecture, and that was just after Paul had died. And I can remember Jeremy phoned me up and he said we need somebody to do an extra lecture because Paul can't do it now because Paul's died. And I'm like, I can't replace him. I'm like, what? And he was like, no, we're not asking you to replace him. He said, we're just asking you to come and do a lecture. And I think at the start of the lecture, I said something, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said something like, if we took out of this room everybody that was influenced by Paul Daniels to now be working, this would be an empty room watching an empty stage. It was something like that. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it's true. That entire room would have been, including myself, would have been inspired by Paul.
So do you remember your first sort of paid gig?
Paul, do you know what? I think one of my first paid gigs, when we moved from Bradford to Blackpool, I found a magic shop. And this was like Harry Potter stuff. Seriously. You went in, it was very dark, really dark, smelt very old and musty. They had weird, I'd not seen props beyond the Paul Daniels magic range, but I'd gone on the velvet range, not just the normal stuff. I was on the velvet range, I was on the proper hardcore stuff. I went in and they had all these weird props, never seen anything like. And at the end was a little wizard called Cyril Critchlow. And he had a shop and a theatre in Blackpool called Witch's Kitchen. And Cyril sort of took me under his wing a little bit, got me into Blackpool Magicians Club. I was 9 when I joined Blackpool Magicians Club. Officially, they had a junior section which was disbanded when I was 12. Officially had to be 16, but they let me in early. They made a special case. So my first paid gig was at Cyril's Theatre. And I can remember thinking I was like the Wolf of Wall Street, because I was about 14 years old and I got paid £10 for 10 minutes. I can remember,
that's good.
I can remember going around, I mean, a lot of people still earn that. Yeah. But I can remember going around school like, I get like £1 a minute. I get paid £1 a minute.
And what were you performing?
I was performing my act then. My mum and dad helped me hugely with my act. It was all quite story based, the tricks that I did. It was all a lot of it really echoed. I've still got a Yorkshire accent, but I really had a Yorkshire accent there, proper broad Yorkshire, proper Bradford. And my act, I used to do a chop cup to rhyme in patter, where whenever the ball went from my pocket back to under the cup, the magic word was by gum.
Oh, very good.
We did. I did Chinese sticks. That was also a rhyming patter. The Lincoln rings, based on a routine about elephants getting married. Yeah, it was all very much how I am now. Really, it was quite.
But for a child,
it was normal stuff, but a bit off the wall. So for somebody 14, it was, and I was. Now looking back, I didn't realise at the time, so I thought it was normal. But looking back, I realised I was so confident. I just used to bounce on that stage like I owned it, with this huge confidence about me. Which, looking back now, that's how I was. So, but that was my first paid gig. It was fun.
It sounds it.
Mm.
And so much work you must have put in for that as well. How many hours were you sort of rehearsing for that?
I used to rehearse the act nearly every night. I used to set up the full magic table, the full props, everything in my front room, and do it for mum and dad every night. And they used to give me notes as well and tell me where I'd messed things up or got things wrong. But originally, I used to do the act because I used to compete in competitions, mainly in Blackpool. We never went down to London or anything like that. It was mainly in Blackpool. But funnily enough, I used to pretty much always compete against Guy Barrett, who's now one of my best friends. But at the time, we were rivals. We were bitter rivals. I mean, Guy still occasionally will, in a conversation, go, "Well, you stopped me winning the hat trick on that competition."
But magic is such a big industry, but it's so small as well. Isn't
it is. It's very small. It's a funny thing. I always think there's a big karma on people. I've seen it over the years where people double cross each other and things, and it does bite you. It does bite you. It's not worth doing.
So how did pantomime come to you then? Or did you come to pantomime?
There's a couple of things happened with the pantomime. The first one, which is just left, we just saw him. The first one was, I used to work on the Mystique show. From being 16, I worked on the Mystique show at the Pleasure Beach, where Russ Stevens was the star of the show. And I used to do Svengali pitches and close-up in the audience before the show, and also work backstage and on stage with Russ, sometimes as a double, and sometimes, sometimes I'd literally be operating the trick. I mean, can you imagine that at 16? It was massively exciting. And also, as well, I never realised the dancers asked you to help get changed. I'm like, it's the best job in the world. It's wonderful. So I did that, and then when Russ left Mystique, I sort of kept working with Russ whilst doing other things as well, doing my own shows as well. And Russ got offered a pantomime at Birmingham Hippodrome, and to be fair, Russ didn't like it. It wasn't for Russ. If Russ were here, he'd tell you Panto wasn't his thing. And I think it's a little bit, which I still am naughty for. We thought we were going into it and it was going to be a bit of a mess around, and because when you see a pantomime, it feels like everyone's just messing about and having fun, and we've got this loose script and this loose idea of what we're going to do, but each scene we're going to do what we want, and then when you get older and get into it, you realise every single thing is scripted. Every single thing is, there's hardly any ad-libbing because everything's got to be to time and everything's got to be right. And I think me and Russ did that pantomime thinking that's how it was going to be, and it wasn't. It wasn't a pleasant experience for him, and so that was that. So that was the first thing that I had with pantomime, which was, at the time, my first thing was the biggest one in the country, which was Birmingham Hippodrome, and Russ was the wizard in it. I was his assistant, but I was seen on stage a couple of times, but I always had something on, or you couldn't, like a cape or something. You couldn't see me, and I used to go out to the clubs in Birmingham, and I used to chat girls up. And the best thing was, in that show was a guy who just won Gladiators, if you can remember Gladiators, who was this brilliant acrobat, and he was the White Power Ranger. And he used to fly down on a desk slide, backflips around the stage, all this kung fu and all that. So I used to chat to these girls in the clubs, and they go, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm in the pantomime." "Oh, what do you do?" "I'm the White Power Ranger." Because you never saw his face. So they used to watch it, and then afterwards, "Oh my God, you're brilliant." But that used to be my thing. So yes, so after that, I didn't do pantomime for a long time. I kept getting offered pantomimes, and I always said no, simply because at Christmas the close-up magic market is just so lucrative. And I was out, and still are at Christmas. I mean, it's already booked up for next year. It's nearly every night, and it's the money on one gig is quite often nearly a week of pantomime. So I always said no, and I always, avoided doing pantomime until there was a year that I was booked doing the Paradise Room, all their Christmas party nights at the Pleasure Beach. And Amanda Thompson, who's a really good friend and brilliant, Amanda said to me, do our pantomime at Blackburn. So at first I said no. I said, because, I'm doing this and I'm doing your gigs. And she said no. She said it all fits in. She said everything's done every day by 4 or 5 o'clock. So even if you've got to get to Leeds for 8 o'clock, you're at Blackburn, so you can get there. So that was that. So I ended up doing the pantomime, and I think last year, if it had gone on, would have been my 5th one. So. And
what were you doing in that?
This time I was going to be, I was wishy-washy. It was Aladdin. So, and nice. Which my first pantomime I did for Amanda, I was the dame.
First Panto dame.
Wow. First Panto as dame, which the director, Roger Hanna, who's really good, he's a great director. He'd be a wonderful one to get on this, with Roger. He's done so much Panto. So he's worked with Bob Fosse, and seriously, he'd be a great person to get on here. I'll speak to him.
Please do.
Yeah, but Roger, he come up to me on the first thing, and I said, I don't know if I'm camp enough to be a dame. I said, that's my thing. I said, I'm not. And, well, at first his reply was, I disagree. But then he said, no, he said, you're getting it wrong. He said, you've not to play it camp. He said, I want you to be you, deliver everything as you, as a blokey bloke, but you've got a dress on. But at no point ever do you reference that you're wearing a dress. And he said, and that's the way to play it. And then I phoned up Sam Rayborn, who's a really good friend and probably the best panto dame in the country at the moment. And I said to him, what do we do? And he went, just be you, but you're wearing a dress. That's it. And that's what I did.
And how did you find it?
I loved it, actually. I absolutely loved it. It was just so much fun. And I found as well, as being the dame, you could get away with more dodgy lines. You could get away with murder a little bit more by doing that part than you can when I'm playing wishy-washy or something. You don't get away with it as much, but you could get away with murder being the dame. You really could.
How did you go for the look then? What look did you have?
Well, I didn't really know what to do. I should find a picture. I didn't really know what to do about the makeup and everything. And again, I phoned up Sam, and Sam sent me a video of him applying his makeup, which was amazing. And Roger come in and he said, I'll show you what to do. And he just did this he just said, do your eyelashes, but they're big. He said, do your lipstick. He said, you just do it, but make it all big. And that's what I did. And it looked fine. It looked great. My only thing was, they put me in a lot of dance routines and I can't dance at all.
What about the singing voice?
Singing, I can do. That was like, I never told them I could sing. That was like a little bit of a revelation for them when I first did the pantomime, because I went to drama college. So at drama college, you learn everything, but I couldn't dance then. I got to the point that my dance teacher took me aside at drama college and told me, you're going to fail all of the college because you can't dance. And I was like, but I'm trying. And they're like, I know. And then the same dance teacher, then after each day at college, taught me how to sword fight, but properly sword fight. So, and he used to, we just had 2 swords, and he used to just come at me, and if I didn't get the sword there in time, I'd be hit in the face with a sword, and he'd hit me, and it made me learn very quickly. And he said, if you can do that, we can put that in as dance, and then that'll get you through. But yes, the reason I'm telling you all that is I learned to sing. They taught me how to sing, and they taught me all vocal technique and what to do. So at the pantomime, they give me this silly song to sing, and on the first rehearsal, like, oh, we didn't know you could sing, right? And then they changed it around a little bit. So,
did you perform any magic then? First in the
first one, no, because the first one, they actually said to me, because you always do magic and because you're known as a magician, we want to take you away from it, and we don't want any magic. We just want you as the dame, and that's it. So I didn't do any magic. And then the second one we did magic, the third one we did magic, last year we did magic, but only a little bit. It's only a touch. It's just like I don't know, for instance, when we did Beauty and the Beast, there was a point that I had to get a rose from the Beast garden, and I turned the rose into a silk, and then the silk back into a rose, But I did actually find, which was not what you expect, when you do magic you're just a magician, that would have got no reaction, that trick. It's just a whatever. But you used to get whoas, and because you're putting it a little bit more out of context, aren't you? They're not expecting a magic trick at that point, and not expecting you to do any magic. So
completely different audience as well.
Yeah. So when you do it, it's like, oh.
Was it weird though, going on stage and not performing magic?
Yeah, a little. More so when I did it. When we did Beauty and the Beast, I was like Belle's dad in Beauty and the Beast, Monsieur Ding Dong, they call me. Monsieur Ding Dong. So when I did that, it didn't bother me when I was doing the dame, because I was so concentrating on doing that and doing something so different, and not falling over in high heels and dancing in high heels and not falling over. But when I was doing Monsieur Ding Dong, I felt more like me, so it felt weird not going on and not having a prop in my hand, or not doing something
to hide behind.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because that's the thing. I mean, magic-wise, props, always having something to hand. You're going out as you.
Yeah, I think magic-wise, you always know where you're going as well with things. For instance, I did a Zoom show last week. And in the Zoom show, I mean, you'll probably know it, and people will probably know what I'm talking about. But there will be people about magicians listening. I did wiki test, and it didn't work.
Oh,
it didn't work over Zoom. So then straight away, I then picked up some paper and said, "What are you thinking of?" And I did like a version of Mental Epic, and nobody knew any different. At the end of it, I had this complete out. Whereas in pantomime, you ain't really got that. It's if something goes wrong, your out is everybody else on the stage, and everybody knowing to follow you, or you to take the lead, or whatever. So we did have, I can remember I think it was when I did Dick Whittington, there was a point that somebody had to come on stage when the money goes missing from the safe, running around going, "Oh, we've been robbed," and I had to run around and, "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" and all this. And he just never come on stage because he'd fallen asleep in the dressing room. So he never come on. So I'm there, and I must have 5 times delivered the cue line. And then I thought, well, if he doesn't find out we've been robbed, then the plot's going to go nowhere. So then I was just making it up, going, well, we'll have to try and get some money. Let's see if we can break into this safe. And there's no money there.
This is the beautiful thing, though, with pantomime, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that these things can go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
If that was a Shakespeare play. You can't ad-lib a Shakespeare play, can you?
No, you can't. But you can get through it like that.
Mm.
I still get told off for ad-libbing. I can't help it.
When then you were at drama college, did you want to go down the whole drama route? To be a serious actor?
I enjoyed acting. And I still probably would do a little bit if I put my head to it, and I haven't really followed it. And I think that's just because now I've got used to what I do. But I did enjoy acting. In fact, at the end of college, I can remember they said you can do anything you want, and me and one of the other lads did Woman in Black, the full play. And I was doing the Arthur Kipps role where I'm playing like 5 parts. And, at the end of it, even the teachers were like, we can't believe that you pulled that off. That was amazing. And at the end of college, I can remember the people from Mount View came to, and our college had a good relationship with Mount View, and they come to watch every year. They came down, and sometimes we do a return visit, and whether you like it or not, you had to do a small acting piece for them. And I did a piece from Equus, and I did a piece, Chekhov piece from Uncle Vanya, and I did them, and then afterwards they were like, oh, they want to see you do something else. So I went back in and I did a piece from a play that you've probably never heard of called, I can't remember who it's by, Little Malcolm and His Struggle Against the Eunuchs. And it's literally this guy who's saying how he goes to parties and pulls, but it's obvious he's making everything up. Mm. So I did that. And then I got this thing and they said, right, Mount View said, they'll prepare to offer you a place at drama school. And I remember arguing like hell with my head teacher, because he was like, this is a once in a lifetime thing, and I'm like, I don't want to be an actor, and I want to be a magician, and I'm taking that place from somebody who does want to be an actor, and I don't think it's right. And I never followed it up. Went to drama, but I did consider it, but then I thought, no, it's not what I want to do. I want to work in magic.
Do you ever regret it?
No, not really. Not really. It's to be honest, until the pandemic hit, I have worked constantly in magic all my life, from being 16 years old. And I listened to lectures, and I was watching something earlier on, and they were saying, how do you get work, and how do you advertise, and do you do a showcase, do you do this, do you do that? And I've been really lucky in the fact that everything I've ever done has led to work. Everything has been that somebody's seen me and then booked me, and seen me and then booked me, and it's all been word of mouth up until the pandemic. Magic's been very, very, very good to me. It's given me a good life. So
you don't really hear of resting magicians, do you?
No,
they go out
really.
and find work.
Yeah, they do, and even I can remember I worked at Blackpool Tower for 12 years, and then they changed the room that I was in, put it into a new room, and the new room that they put it in it just wasn't big enough. It just didn't work, and they literally got rid of it because it was too busy, which was ridiculous. But they got rid of this room, and they said it's not working because people are complaining because they can't get in and it's overcrowded. So we'll maybe put it in the ballroom or something else. Anyway, it was like literally a week later, I didn't have a job. And they were like, it's going to take us a couple of months to sort this out and work out what we're going to do. And even then, I didn't have a job. And within a week, I had every night at Pontins, I had work on the piers, and, I'd sorted myself out within a week. And that was literally just phoning around, and people, like the people at Pontins were so good at that situation. They were just like, right, we'll find the budget, we'll give you some work. And, I think that's what magicians do. Even now I'm working on something completely ridiculous. That's never been done in Blackpool. That I just want to do because I've never done it.
Can you let us into the secret?
I can't let you into the secret. I'm not doing.
Will you tell me off once this is finished?
Might do, maybe not. But it is pretty cool. You will know next Blackpool convention. You'll see it.
What prompted the move then to Blackpool?
My mum and dad. My dad, like I said, my dad died last year, and my dad was a sheet metal worker, and he was just ill. He was just ill, all the fumes off it and everything. That's eventually what we found out years later what killed him. We didn't even know it was all this like stuff in his lungs from doing that job for so long, and he just had to get out of that business and decided he wanted to own a fish and chip shop. And they liked Blackpool, and they found a fish and chip shop, and that was it. Well,
and the home of magic in the UK.
Yeah, and that's it. And I mean, really, if I spoke to Mum the other day, and if they hadn't have done that, I don't know what route my life would have taken. It was, I do believe a little bit in fate and things like that, and I think it was quite fateful that I went down that route.
So where's magic taken you over the world then?
Well, literally everywhere. Literally, I have been around the entire world. And even, how about this one? This is a mental one. Even I went to, when I was, how old would I have been? 34, 35. Me and my wife had decided we were going to have children. But I said, before we have children, let's get a map of the world. Put anywhere that we've not been that we want to go. And book a month off. And just go. Just do it. So, I mean, it was a crazy thing. We bought a round the world airfare ticket, and I sat, and the internet was only just getting big then, really. I sat and worked out everywhere we were going to go. We went to Beijing, we went to Hong Kong, we went to Australia. When we went to Australia, we went on a dinner boat cruise on Sydney Harbour. And we got on the cruise. This is mental. This is like a proper thing of what I think magic's like. We got on the cruise, and we walked in, and I give him my name and email address, and they went, oh yeah, Mr. Brown, yeah, we've upgraded your table. I went, all right. They said you're in the VIP section. So I went and sat there, and then they come over and they went, oh, we're going to give you some champagne. We'd like to give you some champagne, and your drinks are free all night. And I'm like, well, this is all right, what's going on here? And then this little old man come up to the table and went, oh, hello, my name's so I'm the magician tonight, and started doing some tricks. And then he said, do you like the upgraded table and the champagne? And I'm like, yeah, did you sort that? I said, I'm a magician myself. And he went, yeah, I know. He said, as soon as I saw your name, I remembered you're the guy from the Blackpool Magic Convention who stage manages it. He said, I went away and checked the email and checked the website. And he said, and as soon as I saw it, I knew who you were. I'm like, that's insane. It's insane. But yeah, magic took me literally everywhere. There's not many places in the world I've not seen. And it's all because of that.
As a performer of magic, do you still get wowed? Do you still get that little bit of...
Yeah, I love it. I love it when that happens. I get wowed. Me and my wife, Debbie, before we had my daughter, Florence, we used to go to Vegas, 2-3 times a year. I'm sounding like Rockefeller now, but I'm not. We used to go to Vegas that much that we used to get comped hotels, but not because we gambled or anything. I spoke to Paul Stone about it, and he said it's just because you'd been a lot and it had registered, and also you see a lot of shows, so you ended up on the radar. So that's why we used to go a lot, because we'd get back and then we'd get a comp for a hotel for a week, and I'd be like, right, let's see if we can find a cheap flight. And then I found a cheap flight, and we'd say, right, well, let's just take the time off work and we'll go. And when I used to go to Vegas, there were 2 things I always did. Lance, I went to see Lance every time, without fail, and Penn and Teller, because I knew at some point both of them were going to wow me. And I love that moment. I love that. Like the first time I saw Teller do the goldfish, I didn't see it coming, and I can remember sitting there going, and I love that feeling.
Turn back into a child, don't you?
And also as well, it happens at the Magic Convention. You know, when we booked Eric Chien, I can remember on Eric's tech call, he did his entire act, his entire FISM act, which is amazing. I mean, just incredible. And I was stood as close as I am stood to you, watching it. And then I said to Russ Stevens, I went, see how any of that worked. Any of it. And they were like, neither did I. So I went, wait a minute. So I went up to him and I said, Eric, I don't think the lighting's right for the screens. I said, can we just run it again? Oh, yeah, let me just reset, no problem. I made him reset. So I could stand just to the back and to the side and even closer. And I still saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then on the night that he performed, I stood in the wings and watched it completely from the back and saw nothing. And it was like, that was really cool. It was a really cool moment.
And did you find out how it was done in the end?
No, I know roughly how it worked, but roughly, that's it. It was flawless. It was flawless. Same with Yu Ho Jin. It was flawless from every single angle. You see nothing, and I love that. I love that feeling of being wowed still.
How have you found things have changed since from the start of your career with magic through to the current day?
I think the everything's changed. The whole look of it's changed. For a while it went, everybody wanted to be David Copperfield. Now everybody wants to be David Blaine and Dynamo. And I think everything's changed, really. Everything. But what's amusing is the principles of everything still the same. And what I'm really enjoying now is that I keep seeing things that are very old tricks that I've read years ago that are now coming back, and everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. It's like, yeah, it's really old.
Well, when we were talking, we paused recording a little while ago, and you were saying about your involvement with BGT.
Yeah, with BGT, I've done a few things, because Russ Stevens obviously works for BGT, and Russ is one of my best friends. And we did, I think the first thing was when Russ was working with Izzy on BGT. And, it was just a similar thing. We used to just sit and have a beer and bandy little bits of ideas around to, come up with things. To the point that at one point there was only about 4 of us knew what was going on BGT, and it got leaked. And only 4 of us knew. And Russ had to come round and sit with me going, I don't think it's you, but somebody's leaked everything to the press. Somebody's done it. And, a really bad situation, which luckily we give different people different stories, so we worked out who it was. Because that got leaked. So that was that. So we did that, and then we did the thing with Elizabeth, which was the haunting act, which was, again, me and Russ just sat having a coffee, bandying ideas about to absolutely terrify somebody. And we both come up with the idea of it's got to be off the stage, it's got to be, it's got to be terrifying. Not just, oh, it made me jump. Absolutely terrifying. And that's where we come up with the whole idea of taking Amanda Holden under the stage and in the Palladium and scaring her to death. And I've got to say, in rehearsals, my God, when we did the final rehearsal of it, Russ was like, right, well, you stand in for Amanda Holden, so go and sit in the... So I sat in the judge's chair and we rehearsed it. And I'll tell you something, I knew everything that were coming and I was scared to death. And I knew everything that were going to happen to me. So we did that, and then over the years there's little bits where Russ has, phoned me up and said, oh, we need this. I forgot his name, Graham Bam Bam, the kids entertainer. Anyway, he did my shoe burn routine on it. Last year we had Jasper Cherry doing my drinks hospitality routine on it. I've done a few bits on and off with it. I quite enjoy being around it. So, it's always good fun.
So it's sort of come from full circle with you watching Paul Daniels on a Saturday night through to...
Yeah, but doing it on a Saturday night.
Helping for it to be in people's living rooms again.
Yeah. And, last year we did some bits with one of the acts where I had to stand on the stage and look like a normal person. I won't go into the trick and what it was and everything else, but I had to just stand there and look like a normal person, a member of crew, doing something. And I had to FaceTime the guy who'd invented the trick and said, right, this is how I'm doing it. Oh, you're doing it brilliant. And I went, no, I'm not, because I'm doing it like a magician. I said, me and you have got to sit in FaceTime for half an hour and fumble and make it look like I'm not doing it properly, so that I look like I'm fumbling. I look like I can't pick that up and I can't do that and I can't do that. So, you know, we did things like that. It was great. I really enjoy the BGT thing. And I've got to say, last year, the stuff that come up with BGT that Russ involved me on, that, like, it saved more than anything my mental health. Just being back in that situation and having that pressure. And, you know, on the night, we did some stuff in the final, and on the final, when they were filming it, well, it was live, actually, the final, they had this whole section of all the West End performers. And it's like, you know, it's like huge on YouTube. It was a massive thing when it was on. And I can remember the first rehearsal, and Cameron McIntosh were there, everything. Everybody were crying in the studio. And I turned to Russ, we're like, God, we're so privileged to be in this situation, to stand and watch that live. You know, it was like, you know, I think BGT and the Pleasure Beach saved my sanity last year. Russ and Amanda really proper saved my sanity.
Well, you're helping to make magic cool again, because it did go through a stage, and you had the masked magician as well. That's a little tinker. But do you think he was actually a force for good, because he got people to reinvent and reimagine?
I think the masked magician, I can remember when the first one was on, and Ali Bongo, I think, had done a lecture at the Blackpool Magic Club, and I remember having a beer with Ali afterwards, and he said, and he was spot on, he said, I wish they'd all shut up. He said, because if all the magicians just shut up, he said it won't go past one series, because no one will care. But I think the masked magician were one of those things. One of those things where it was forgotten. People forget. People don't really want to know how it works in the end. They don't really want to know. They think they do. Yeah. I think Copperfield said on an interview, it's like a car crash. He said, when you go past the car crash, you don't want to look, but you wish you'd never looked. And I think that's the same with muggles and magic. I think it's the same thing. They want to know, and then when they find out, they didn't really want to know, because it spoiled it.
And you mentioned they're muggles. Obviously the Harry Potter thing
yes.
as well, but again, magic's had this massive resurgence from sort of the year 2001 through to now.
Yeah.
What was it like, though, when magic wasn't cool?
I remember when I went to school, I used to get bullied quite a lot, and a lot of hassle for doing magic. A lot of hassle. So it was so uncool. You know, you weren't into football, but there again, I've never met a magician who's into football. I've hardly ever met a magician who's into sports. So I sat and had a real in-depth chat about this with David Kay. Like, we really analysed it. And he was like, do you think it takes up the same part as your brain? And I'm like, yeah, maybe it does. And, you know, that's that. And then eventually Gary Dunn just went, no, you did magic because you got bullied because you didn't like football. I'm like, yes, you're right. That's why you did magic.
It's very true, though. Have you ever tried any certain parts of magic and not been any good at
it? I'm not great at mentalism. I can do it, but I can't do all the serious stuff. I'm not very good at that. But all the other stuff, I've had, when I did Carnival of Magic, it had everything in it. It had Grand Illusion, it had close-up magic, it had comedy magic, kids magic, the lot. It had every single... And I think that's one thing that it stuns me at the convention that, and I won't go into who they are, but some really big name magicians that I know, and I've said to them, did you like the gala show? Oh, we didn't watch it. We only watched close up. And Russ has had the same thing. We didn't watch that. We only watched that bit. And I think I'll watch anything. If it's magic, I'll if it's kids magic, if it's mentalism, if it's bizarrist, whatever it is, I'll watch it. And I'll learn about it. And I think that's how you do learn. You've got to have that broad knowledge of magic.
Did you give yourself any names when you were starting off in the business?
No, just always been my name, Russ Brown. That's it. And then for a while at the Tower, they wanted to call me Uncle Russ, which stuck for a long time. So the kids entertainer there, that stuck for a long time. Everybody knew me as Uncle Russ for a long time. And I kept going to the Tower, can we drop that? And then we got a new manager, and he brilliantly asked for a meeting with me, and we're really nervous to say, look, it don't sound great, this old Uncle Russ. I'm like, oh, thank God for that. And he was like, oh, brilliant.
You were released.
Yeah.
When it comes to pantomime, how much involvement do you have in how much magic goes into a show?
In the pantomime, whenever they put magic in it, the director, Roger, has always just pulled me in on a meeting and said, right, let's go over the script and let's see, number one, where we can put the magic in, or, you know, what would you suggest? And then he'd sometimes redirect little bits to make it fit better in the pantomime. We used to, like the Rose, for instance, I'd just had a little touch. I'd see someone and go, oh, do you know what? A little trick would work there, Roger. And, you know, let's do that. So, and it is, I think the first couple of years, I didn't dare say too much. But now it's quite good, as in, I'll go, oh, this would be a good gag, Roger. If we just threw that in, oh, that'll be a good little bit. And, you know, and we'll sit and battle it out and try and work out whether it's going to work or not. I found that pantomime, there's gags that work that would never work in the real world. But in pantomime, they get a big laugh. And, you know, I used to, when Tam did the pantomime at Manchester, I used to go and watch him every year. And, you know, some of the stuff, I used to sit there and afterwards I go, how did that get such a big laugh? And he was like, I don't know.
It's just
one of my favourite things that happened when I went to see Tam in pantomime at Manchester. And I don't think Tam still believes, if Tam listens to this, it'll amuse him. I don't think he still believes that this is a true story, but I swear it's a true story. So he was doing Cinderella. So, you know, he's very good as normal. Tam's excellent. He's probably one of the best I've seen in pantomime. It's like made for him. And at interval, my little girl Florence had said, oh, I want to get some sweets or something. I said, oh, okay. So we're queuing up, and then there's this kid in front of me, and he turns to his mum and he goes, Mum, I really like buttons the best. And I thought, oh, that's good. I'm going to tell Tam. I thought, I'll just say to Tam, this is a little kid, and he said, I like buttons the best. To which the mum pointed at the sweets and she said, well, they ain't got buttons. They've got all buttons.
But it's silly little things like that as well, coming from children. I mean,
yeah.
So when you've put your magic into shows, do you find yourself watching the audience and seeing different reactions from different age groups?
Yes, a little. I like to try and hit everyone in one go, which I think a lot of kids entertainers take it too much only at the kids. And I think, to be honest with you, you don't even have to throw in all these innuendos and stuff. You just do something good. If you do something good, you can grab everybody's attention of all ages, as long as it's done well. I think magicians don't realise theatrically things that they've got to do and things that work. Like, if we'd have got into the final with the Elizabeth thing, which we pretty much nearly did, and we had more complaints than anything on TV.
But that's great because people are reacting, isn't it?
But we, you know, it had completed the story, and I think it's very important to do that. And this is me bloody talking from drama college again. I think magicians don't realise that even just the slightest trick tells a little story, it tells something, and theatrically it's good to, for instance, the virtual convention, not a lot of people have noticed it'll have gone missed, but it made it complete in the fact that we started the convention with John bringing on Phil Hitchcock, and Phil Hitchcock explained about a ghost light, about the fact that theatres leave a light on the stage when the theatre's empty, supposedly keep the ghosts happy and keep it all, you know, the theatre alive. It's to keep them company. And we started with Phil lighting the ghost light and doing his floating fire routine. And the last thing on that entire thing was back in the theatre with Ben Hart, who did a full routine around the light and then turned it off at the end, which made the whole thing in my head have this circle of the beginning, the end, the light was, you know, turned on to bring in the show and turned off at the end and all that. I mean, I'd say 99% of people who watched that virtual convention didn't spot that, but that kind of thing under running does make a big difference, in my opinion.
And you know, that's the thing, deep down that you're true.
Yeah, I think that kind of thing makes a big difference. I think a lot of magicians don't think about the theatrics of it, and sometimes I think quite often I think the theatrics are more important than the trick. If you've got that hook to grab them in and get them interested, then you that's why Copperfield and people like that work. If you watch Copperfield, I was watching Citizen Kane again the other day, and there were so many bits of it. I thought, that's like when Copperfield did that, and you can tell that he's inspired more by the visuals of a movie and the theatrics of a movie than he is the trick. The trick fits into the story, and I think that's more important, personally.
So storytelling through magic performance is very important.
Yeah, it makes people buy into it. You hook them.
And it's about how you make people feel, not what they're seeing.
Yeah, 100%.
And even then, going back to pantomime, to make them wowed and to get that where there's no distractions either.
Yeah.
So you've got all those people.
I think as well, something that people dismiss about pantomime is the fact that how many people get into theatre and want to be actors, magicians, whatever, because they saw pantomime when they were a kid. It's possibly the first experience a lot of people have in a theatre, and sometimes the only experience they have in a theatre. They go once a year and watch a pantomime. But I think that's a great thing. I think that's brilliant.
Did you see many as a kid?
I didn't see many as a kid, no. We didn't see many pantomimes as a kid, because as a kid, all I wanted to do was magic. I didn't care. If there were a magician in it, I'd want to go. But that's it. I just wanted to do it. I didn't want anything else. That's all I wanted to do.
Well, you mentioned Paul Daniels earlier on. Any other great magicians that sort of helped excite you?
It was Paul Daniels mainly when I was a kid. I remember Hans Moretti being brilliant as a kid. It was always exciting if he were on the Paul Daniels show. It was always exciting, and I ended up, when I was older, working with Hans about 4 times on the convention, and he were always like incredible to work with. You were terrified something were going to go wrong, but he was just the best to work with. And do you know what? As a kid as well, I can remember watching Doug Henning a lot and really enjoying Doug Henning. Copperfield the specials weren't really getting shown at that point, but for some reason Doug Hennings were. They were appearing. So, and then, really, I mean, as I got older, people who helped me the most were the people in the club, like Cyril Critchlow and Bill Thompson from House of Secrets. Bill was like a little mentor. He was like, we always said, there was a bunch of us like me and Russ Stevens, Paul Zen, and there was a small bunch of us that we used to be called Bill's Boys, and we used to go in Bill's all the time. And Bill was like, he was like the Dumbledore, literally.
Here's the thing. Blackpool, capital of magic. There's no magic shop.
No, and we did have 3. JB Magic were based here for a long time. Derek had Tommy Cooper Joke Shop, and then there were Bill's House of Secrets. But now there's none, although it's a little known fact, but Vanishing Ink's warehouses in Blackpool is based here, so it's still here. And you've also got one of the biggest illusion builders in England, which is Guy Barrett. So his warehouse is in Blackpool as well.
But nothing little children can go.
No, there's nothing. There's no little shops anymore. So,
it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, I think bricks and mortar magic shops, there's not many left anyway, is there? I think the internet's killed it, really.
There's something about that, going into a magic shop and seeing all those weird and wonderful props, like you said. I mean, seeing Dippy Duck.
Yeah.
And all this.
We also had Murray as well, didn't we? Which his shop used to just be around the corner from here. So, and then I only ever saw Murray as a kid. So it wasn't until I was older that, I read up on him and like, oh my God, that old man in that magic shop, he did all this. It was like amazing.
Even in London now, international magic you've got, but Davenport's have gone.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? It's sad.
And Glasgow, Tam Shepherd's.
Yeah.
Which is a real good-looking magic shop.
Yeah.
Just how they should be. But Magic Box in Newcastle,
of course.
They've moved out of the city centre and they've gone. Have you been in the new shop?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's fantastic. Again, I might keep this in. Graham.
Yeah, give him a plug.
Yeah.
I just bought a sidewalk shuffle off Graham. It's very good, Graham.
Yeah, we're talking about Magic Box, and they moved from the city centre, and they've got a retail unit, so they've got all their fancy dress in there, and then they've got lovely, clean, very modern-looking magic shop, and then the other half of the upstairs is a theatre.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, yeah, and he does lectures and things, doesn't he? Yeah, yeah.
And it's a wonderful place to go. The site, their website's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm friends with them all, but it is my first choice of magic shop. Other than that,
I've got to say, when I do the stuff that I do in Sweden, it's quite often Graham that I go to and go, I need 7 of these within a week, and he's usually a lot of the others are like, oh well, we'll see, and he's usually the one that goes, yeah, all right, I'll sort it, and just gets it done. When I went to Venice last year, it was about a month before the pandemic hit and all the lockdown. We went to Venice, and there were a little magic shop in Venice I never knew about, and I've been to Venice loads of times and love it there. And I was walking through, I'm like, bloody hell, a magic shop. And then I went in and I was looking, and the guy in there, after about 10 minutes, I didn't have the heart to say I'm a professional magician, because he was just demming everything he had.
That's the thing though as well, being demmed in a shop, and you feel like, I've got to buy something now.
Yeah, you do.
Even if it's a pack of cards.
Yeah, you do. I think I did buy something. I got Florence to pretend that she wanted a little trick, and I think she got out and said, Daddy, you've got loads of these at home.
So that little boy excitement in you when you go into magic shops or seeing new tricks that are available.
It's still there. It don't go, does it?
No.
I think that's why we do it.
Why do you think it is there's not many women on the circuit?
I don't know, really. I don't know. I get asked this about Blackpool, and I can honestly say when we book the acts at Blackpool, people are saying you should book 50% this, and we don't even look at anything apart from the magic. Nothing. We just see an act and we go, that's good, and that's it. And we don't even think, is that a man, a woman, or whatever. We just book acts that we like. So I know for the one that's just got cancelled, we had about 4 women magicians that were booked that were all really, really good, and some that people don't really know about again, and that we wanted to let people see before they hit the brakes, really. But again, that the pandemic put paid to that for us.
Well, there were the two ladies on BGT, the young girl and Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, Izzy, you mean, as a young girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Russ's granddaughter.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Who quite often comes to my house with my little girl, and they just cause absolute havoc. It's like, can Izzy come round? I'm like, oh. Because I just know they both get proper giddy. It's just havoc. Do you know what as well? Another thing that the pandemic put paid to, they were doing a Christmas special of BGT, which about halfway through the rehearsals got shut down because somebody on the set got COVID, so everybody had to be sent home. And then we were doing this thing where Izzy was doing a routine while Paul Potts was singing Walking in the Air, and she made a snowman appear, and the snowman levitated around the stage, and I was the snowman. So we sat down with Russ, and Russ had come up with the whole routine, and he said, right, I said, how do you think we should do this? And he said, she's got to make this appear, that vanish, and that. I'm like, right, okay. And then one of them was making this big carrot appear for his nose, and I said, how about this? And it was sort of a spellbounding move that I did. And I said, it's a bit technical though, this, Russ. And he went, no, she'll be able to do it. And I went, yeah, but she's got to be able to do it in 2 days. And I said, it's a bit technical, this. I said, it's not. And he said, no, show it her. He said, just go on. He said, just spend half an hour or so with her. And oh my God, she picked it up like unreal. Unreal. I just sat there and I went, right, do this. This is how you make this appear. And she's like, right. And then she just sat by herself. And then when it come to the filming the next day, she just had it like spot on. So you were like, she's got a proper talent for it. She really gets it. And, you know, I've seen her do some card moves that are really hard technical stuff, and she can do it. She's very good. Very good.
You've got a love of comedy.
Mm.
Where did that come from? What sort of thing was moulding you when you were younger?
When I was younger, Vic Reeves was incredible. I howled. I used to video every Vic Reeves and cry laughing. One of the biggest things is Python, really. Python sort of made me get into the old Vic Reeves thing. Python made me I watched a documentary on Python by Steve Martin. Didn't know who Steve Martin was, which made me then go away and watch all Steve Martin's stuff and things like that. So I think that's what sort of spurred it on. But I'd say if it boiled down to it, Python. I remember one of my memories that I still look back on, although it wasn't a good time. One Christmas, and I was meant to be doing pantomime, and I had to pull the pantomime because I got appendicitis. Right, I had a bit of bellyache. It got worse and worse, and then I can remember I was laying in bed and I couldn't stop I was uncontrollably shaking, like horrendous. And I'm like going to my wife, call an ambulance, there's something really wrong with me. So we got to the hospital and they did a lot of tests, and then they went, right, your appendix is ruptured. And they said it is quite bad as well. They said it's really bad. So, and I can remember them coming up and saying, sign this, you've got to go for an operation straight away. And my wife was like, is it a camera down the throat? And they went, no, it's a proper operation. And she said, well, can't we try this and this? And they said, if we leave it another 3 or 4 hours, it'll be dead. They said it's ruptured and it's really bad. It's poisoning him on the inside. And that were it. They rushed me in, got me done. I've still got a big scar here from it. And they just said, you can't work. I had loads of close-up work at the pantomime. Can't work for a month. Can't do anything. I'm like, no, I'm only doing this. Nope, can't do anything for a month. They said, because it's quite a, they said it was quite bad, really. And they said it's quite a big scar, so you're going to have to be careful. And I can remember just sitting in bed, and I was just so fed up, and I couldn't do anything. I was in pain all the time. And I just thought, and it was Christmas, I thought, I'm going to put Life of Brian on. And I nearly split the stitches because I forgot how funny it was. And it cheered me up no end, even though it was painful. It was absolutely painful.
It is a great film, isn't it?
And it's my favourite.
So many little bits.
Oh, it's my. Do you know why I think it? I think it's my favourite comedy film, without a doubt. And I think when you watch it, every single scene is a quotable classic. There's not a single scene that you don't go, oh, this is a classic scene. There's not a single scene where you go, oh, that's just crow bad. It just feels like every scene is an absolute classic. It's brilliant. It's my favourite.
It's beautifully shot as well, isn't it?
Yeah, everything about it is brilliant. It's so good.
Have you ever thought about writing Panto yourself?
Me and Tam talked about writing a Panto, but never did it. And then at one point somebody was going to do it. I can't remember where it was. I think it was at Loud the Pavilion, but somebody was going to do a Panto and asked me if I'd write one, which I said yes I would, but I just never did it.
Oh.
I just never followed it up. I always ended up busy with something else.
That's the thing you said about busy, but then you mentioned obviously with the pandemic and the lockdown, no work and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you?
Oh, massively. It was like horrendous. It's, all my work went. I had I do a lot of work out in Sweden, which is a massive investment because it's over 7 cruise ships with a lot of people. I'd spent all of my money buying all the stuff for that, so all of my money had gone into that investment, which didn't happen. Because of things like that, I didn't qualify for any grants, so I didn't have anything coming in for a year. So it's been hard, and I've resisted doing the Zoom shows, and then, funnily enough, it was Tam who got me into a Zoom show he was doing where they needed 5 minutes extra, so I did the magic, and that then made me literally turn downstairs into a little studio, and that inspired me to do a bit and got me back into it. I was quite lucky in the fact that I live literally next door to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, really close. And the woman who owns the Pleasure Beach, Amanda, who's been a friend for a long time, we'd been emailing each other, and she asked how we were doing, and I said, I'm a bit fed up, not doing out. And she said, well, do you want a job on the park? Doing anything? She said, tell me what you want to do. So we're like, well, I know the park. I said, you could put me just as like an ambassador or something, telling people what rides are and things like that. And she went, oh, okay. And she went, come over in an hour. And I went over. I can remember my interview. In the interview, the man asked me 2 questions. And then after the second question, he went, listen, you could punch me in the face and I have to give you this job. And he said, so can you just fill out the form for me? And I went, yeah, all right. So that was that. He went and got a coffee. So then I did that, which was the only time I've ever had a normal job. The only time.
Did you like it?
I did. I enjoyed it. I loved having no responsibility. I loved the fact that I finished and then that was it. And I loved the fact that I'd do something and I wasn't thinking to myself, that person wasn't laughing, he didn't react, that person didn't do this. You do. You pick the one person who isn't laughing. I didn't care. I didn't. Once I took my jacket off, that was it. The day were done. And I loved having that lack of pressure. So I enjoyed that. But then suddenly, if you remember, only for a very short window last year, for a few months, Amanda saw me doing the ambassador job and she said, I'll come in and have a coffee. And then she said, right, the horseshoe's available. And she said, and from next week, we're allowed to put shows on, socially distanced. And it was, there were a lot of rules. I couldn't get people up on stage. I couldn't get there were certain things I couldn't do. And she said, but you can put a show on. And she said, do you want to do something? So I'm like, yeah. So I phoned up Steve Royal, who I think you've interviewed Steve, haven't you? So I phoned up Steve and said, look, you're not doing out either at the moment. Do you want to do the show we did at the Grand Theatre last year in the Horseshoe? I said, we can have a couple of weeks in there. So we did that, which was excellent. That we were, I think at that point I was looking and we were about the only people doing shows, it seemed. So that was quite a cool thing that I still managed to work at that point. And then straight after that, I had a load of close-up work over Christmas as normal. And Amanda then said, right, do the pantomime instead of the close-up work. And I'm like, oh, Amanda, I can't decide. And she was dead straight. And she just said, it's not going to happen. She said, they are not in December going to let you walk up to somebody with a pack of cards and do a trick. She said, it's not going to happen. And she said, think about it logically. And she said, but I can give you work for this pantomime. So do the pantomime. So I did the pantomime, and I've got to say, we did all the rehearsals and everything. Everything. We were all ready to go. We were 2 days off opening night, and then they brought in the lockdown and stopped us doing it. And do you know what? I absolutely loved every second of those rehearsals. I loved it. I loved being back on stage. I loved the fact I was singing and dancing. I mean, my singing didn't hold up. The other guy in the pantomime was Kevin Sim, who won The Voice, used to be in Liberty X, and he's like incredible. It's like I thought I'll sing this song and we're doing a duet. You got a friend in me with him, and I'm like, oh my god.
Was it nicer being with the family for Christmas?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was great. And straight after that, she just said, "We'll do this pantomime next year." And I just thought, do you know what? I want to do it. I really enjoyed it, and I want to do it. So that's what I'm doing next year. I'm doing Aladdin at the Globe.
Brilliant. And is there going to be plenty of magic in that?
Only a few bits again, little touches. There's a lot of added gags I've thrown in that I kept getting told off about even in rehearsals.
I really would like to see, because the song sheet, and I'd love to see a dame do the song sheet with Pro Mystic colour match.
Yeah.
And I could see that with the dame, and and she turns around a picture, or a picture comes down, and big question mark envelope, cheesy as hell. And art lessons with teacher, but then the dame just gets stripped off, and then she's wearing.
I will tell you the best story about that off microphone. There's a hypnotist who works at Pleasure Beach called Ken Webster.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Ken bought a Pro Mystic, and I said, "What's your out?" And he went, "What do you mean?" What's your out? You'll like edit this bit out. And what do you mean? I said, if it goes wrong, what go wrong? I said, Ken, you've already told me that if you do this, it resets it. Yeah? I said, well, what if she does that with the pen? Well, she won't. I said, but if she puts it back in the pot, it's going to reset it. She won't reset it. I went, okay. I said, do you need an out? No, I don't. So, like that, I went in one night. He's there, the woman's behind him. And he goes, okay, love. So pick up a pen, yeah? And I want you to colour in the shoes. Colour in the... Where's the pen, love? And he'd got a buzz saying it had reset. And she went, I've put it in the pot. And he turned round and he went, you stupid you and he rolled up the paper, threw it at her head. I went, back to your seat, you go on, right? And he's a late night hypnotist, so, you know, he got a big laugh. And as she's walking back down, he just looked up, lowered his glasses and went, that's an out. It was brilliant.
Because I love that routine. I really do, and I think that can really work well. Even you could even do it with somebody just communicating to the day.
Oh no, Ken had the bloody had the board. What are they called? The pad. Fabristolo.
Yeah,
the Fabristolo pad. So he had one of them, and I nearly always failed. So that many bloody radio mics and all sorts in that room. BGT, they never work on BGT because there's that much interference.
Yeah.
And Ken was like, oh, it don't work. And I'm like, Ken, I said, you get somebody to stand in the wings. I said, you've got a guy backstage, yeah? Yeah, so what? And I said, so you walk forward and you put a blindfold on and the person draws something and he holds it up. And I said, and when he holds it up, he says, show that side of the audience. The guy in the wing looks at it and then draws exactly the same thing on a whiteboard. And he went, right. And I said, so and then before you do your thing, you walk to the wings and get a microphone, glimpse it, and then say, right, take that. Nobody's set this up. And, oh, it's brilliant.
How is magic, do you think, going to change post-COVID?
I don't know. I think Zoom shows will stay for a long time. And I think that, personally, I would avoid getting anybody on stage for quite a while. Everything is going to have to be stay in your seat, stay stops, remember this, do this. You know, even like when I did the show with Steve in the middle, when we were allowed to just do something but socially distance, I wanted to do my watch smash routine. And to borrow the watch, I just went out and I got a 6-foot fishing net. You know, like a kid's fishing net on a stick. And I said, I'm not allowed near you, so you're going to have to drop the watch into the fishing net, sanitize it, and pass it out. And, you know, it got really big laughs, that. But
this is the new normal.
Yeah, but that was the way I genuinely had to do it to be able to do the trick.
Like you said, you know, a pack of playing cards.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be sanitised after
That's
every
it.
single use.
You can't do it the same way. Damien O'Brien has got a brilliant thing with that. When he did the BGT final, he were doing this torn and restored card at one point, and one piece of the card, which was signed by Amanda, he had to vanish. So he said to Russ, "What shall I do?" And Russ said, "Just eat it." And he went, "But how do I vanish it?" And he went, "No, you just eat it." So it's only a little bit of card. And just eat it. Just chew it up and eat it. Yeah, all right, I'll do it. And if you watch it back, Damien will tell you. If you watch it back, he goes, "Okay, and Amanda, if you can just pass that back to me." And she's passing it, and then she went, "Oh!" And she gets out some sanitizer and sprays it. That's what I was like, "How was that?" And he went, "It was minging." He said, "I had to eat it. It was covered in sanitizer."
80% alcohol. Very nice.
Yeah, makes it even more fun.
So what would be your advice then for young upcoming magicians?
My advice... I'm going to go...
Or even some old pros.
Yeah, I'm going to go old school on the first thing.
Who've stuck into a rut.
On my old thing, I would say my first piece of advice is to go out and get all the old magic books. Get the Big Book of Magic by Patrick Page. I'm trying to think of some of my favourites. Pole Bearer's Review. All the Pole Bearer's Reviews got gold in it, and nobody knows it. I've shown so many tricks to people, and they're like, "Oh, that's brilliant. What is it?" It's like, it's Pole Bearer's Review. It's really old. Stuff like Chap's Scrapbook, very, very old stuff. That'd be number one. But my main thing would be that I think don't just narrow your mind to one thing of magic and go, I only like card tricks, I only like that. Look at it all. Expand your mind out to look at every single genre of magic. Look at the workings of illusions. Look at mentalism. Look at everything. Look at children's magic. At everything, because it'll expand your knowledge and it'll give you a great knowledge of magic doing that.
And what about for the pros who've sort of got stuck into a rut?
The pros who've got stuck into a rut, similar thing. I'd say go and get out your old books. Go and get out your old books and get inspired. Don't just go and buy the latest trick. Come up with things. There's not tons of stuff that I do that is bought stuff, because I had for a long time this fear that if I did a trick that I'd bought, everyone would think, oh, he's nicked that. That's not his. So I just used to invent all the time and still invent a lot, because I don't know, that's maybe how my mind works. But I'd say go out and get the books and get inspired, not by just going and buying one trick, by going back and learning your craft from the basics, basically.
What are your sort of favourite illusions to perform then?
To perform, I do a girl through mirror that Guy Barrett built along with Russ, which again that trick lasts 3 seconds. But I do it with a person from the audience going through the mirror, and it's a full routine about the fact that in Blackpool there was a fun house that burnt down, and I do a full routine about the mirror being in the Hall of Mirrors and surviving the fire, and it's quite spooky actually, to the point some kids freak out when I'm doing it. So illusion wise, that's one of my favourites that I perform, and I've also got an appearing dodgem car illusion, which is sort of a kicker to something else, but I do still get a kick out of the dodgem car. I get a kick out of pulling up that sheet, making the sheet looking like it's a reveal for something completely different, and then dropping it, and 3 seconds later there's a full dodgem car on the stage, sometimes with somebody sat in it, and I love that that wow moment. In fact, the first time I did the dodgem, it took me about a week to realise, because I was like, it's not getting a reaction. I'm like, this is amazing. This is like an incredible trick. And it's not getting a reaction, and I don't understand why. For the life of me, it's not getting a reaction. And then Tony Stevens was working at the theatre at the time. This was a show I did at the Pleasure Beach, and they were doing the sound and lights. And Tony went, you're not letting them register. I'm like, what do you mean? And he said it happened so instantaneous that the mind can't compute that's just appeared. So he said they don't register it. He said you make it appear and then go, thanks a lot for watching. And he said just talk for about 30 seconds afterwards, and then it got a big reaction, because I realised I had to leave that little bit of time for him to go, oh my god, that car's just appeared, because it wasn't until they were walking out that they realised that that it got that reaction. It was strange, really. It was a strange thing, but I still get a kick out of the dodgem car.
One thing you haven't mentioned is any close-up in your favourite illusions to perform.
Close-up, McDonald's Aces is up there, although I don't like using gaff cards personally, but McDonald's Aces is well up there. I really enjoy doing that as a trick. But when I'm doing walk-around, just, again, it's like I do an ambitious card, but it's just a routine I made up that I don't really share with magicians, but when I've shown it to magicians, like, oh, that's great, whose is that? I just made it up. So I like the carded mousetrap thing. That's a brilliant little bit. Fork bending, spoon bending for punters can't be beaten, I don't think. So I love doing close-up, actually. That's something I have missed. So, funnily enough, at the convention, I did a fork bend on Yuri. It was the most bizarre thing. We're sat having a coffee, and then Yuri went, do you know how to do a fork bend? I went, yeah. Oh, yeah, look. And he went, show me on that fork. I went, no. And he was like, why? And I went, I'm not doing a fork bend on Yuri Geller. I said, come on. And he went, no, please, come on, show me. I went, no. And he went, please. So I showed him, it's brilliant. How do you do it? And I went, come on. And he was like, no. He said, I honestly don't know how you did that. And then he said, when he said, is Florence coming to watch the talk tomorrow? So I'm like, yeah. And I went, oh. He said, I want to meet her. And he said he bought her a Daredevil comic that he was in and signed up for her. And he said, tell her to bring a spoon from home and I'll bend a spoon for her. So I'm like, right, okay. So I said, bring a spoon with you, Florence. And she brought this spoon. It was so thick. Honestly, you couldn't... You'd have had to put it in a vice to bend it. It was so thick. And I saw it and I thought, oh, there's no chance he can do that. No chance. And then as he did it, and it was just me, Florence, Yuri, and my wife, Debbie. And he went, oh, let me just try it and all this. And I swear to God, I burnt his hands. I watched and I watched and I watched. And I don't know how he did it. I have not a clue. That was a proper moment of wonder. Because it really did look like he just put it in his hand and, just stared at it and it bent. And I don't know how he did it. And afterwards, Debbie was like, wait, he don't do it like you. How did he do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Would you want to know?
No.
Good.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know because I loved it.
Well, this leads me on to my last question for you. Your dream pantomime. So you can be in it, you can be in the stalls watching it, you could choose the venue, and your cast can be alive or dead or a mixture of both.
Oh, that's a good question. Well, venue would either be the Grand in Blackpool, because I love the Grand. A strange venue, because it's not a pantomime venue, would still be the Horseshoe in Blackpool, simply because I have had such a history in that place. The last show I did in there, the first night was the day my dad died, and I really didn't want to perform. And afterwards now, looking back, I did the right thing to go on stage that night, and I wouldn't have wanted it to be in any other theatre in the country than that place, because I'm so at home in there. And obviously the Palladium is the other one. When me and Russ did the thing with Elizabeth, that was it in the Palladium, and literally they give us the keys and said, right, go around and have a look what you want to do. And at one point, we were so giddy. We're doing stuff, and then we turned to each other and went, how cool is this? We're just doing what we want in the London Palladium. So one of those venues, I'd say out the three, as a pantomime, it'd probably be the Grand, because I love that theatre as well. Cast-wise, do you know what? I'd be a little bit selfish and want my friends in it. So I'd want Tam to be in it.
What show?
Out of the ones I've done, I've enjoyed, although we only did rehearsals, I've really enjoyed Aladdin. I really enjoyed it. So it'd be Aladdin. I'd have Tam in it. I would have Steve in it. Alive or Dead, I would have Tam's dad in it, King Lollipop. Because, he taught me, when I would date him, I actually did phone him for advice, and he'd be brilliant. Sam Rayborn I'd have in it as well. Who else would I have in it? Who would be my female cast? I worked with Vicky Michelle, and she was really nice and good in Panto as well. So yes, I think Vicky Michelle would be a great one to put in there as well.
What about your villain? You must have worked with some bad people.
I have worked with some bad people, but do you know what? At the moment, I am watching and addicted to, with my daughter and my wife, Cobra Kai. And I would love to have somebody like Martin Cove, who's Johnny Crease, who's the villain in Cobra Kai as a villain. That would be amazing. But I think, villain-wise, out of the ones that I've seen, and I did meet him and have a quick drink with him, and that was pretty cool. The Hoff was very good, believe it or not. He was a really good villain.
He gets Panto, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, he was like excellent. I can remember when Tam were doing Manchester with the Hoff, and I was like, does he get it? And he said he's really good, actually. And he was excellent. So, yeah, I think the Hoff would be in there. So let's have a think. I'd have Steve or Tam as the comedy. Someone like Vicky Michelle, I'd have the Hoff in there as the villain. I'm trying to think of anybody else living or dead that I'd like to see in there. Probably some of the Pythons. I don't think any of them have done it. I could imagine John Cleese doing it. It'd be amazing.
He'd make a good baddie, wouldn't
Oh, it'd be amazing. Incredible, wouldn't he?
he? Well, Russ, thank you so much for sharing
It's been fun.
your story for the Panto podcast.
Yeah, been good. Thank you very much for asking me.